All right, so recording in session. Okay, so we're back from our break. And we have to, sorry, I just have to check to make sure I signed in this afternoon. Now, what a time to check, right? I did not sign in for this afternoon on the phone. Yes. Anyway, we want to at least print out what we saw here. We could use the same format, right? But we can't use back the variable I, because I tells us up to what value. I tells us up to what value we took in we took in data. So we'll need another variable. Once I use I, my next variable is J. And J is now going to allow me to create a loop for J is equal to 0. J is less than I. J plus. And I want to print out the same thing essentially that I had before, except I'm going to put a \n here. And it has to be book 1 at position G. Book 1 at position G. 1 at position G. And book 1 at position G. So I now becomes important to us because I kind of tells us, well, how many valid entries were put in, right? Especially if we didn't have up to 10 values put in. So if I run this again, and I want to get a author's name, Kyra.
No, ma'am, sir.
Is that the name of your book?
No, the name of my book is How Not to Get Your Bike Stolen.
Ooh.
And it's non-fiction.
Ouch.
I was expecting to say, I was expecting she to not say non-fiction. I was expecting she to say directed.
Well, yeah, well, that sounds bad because I know it's for me, right? And let's do a book ID 1, 2, 3. All right, Hanson.
Yo.
What's the name of your book?
Like
what you was following up with that.
How to be the best of all time?
How to be the best of all time. Subject?
Yes, I buy one time, say.
Buy that one time.
Hanson, the subject of the book Hanson, sir. Come on now.
Hanson's wisdom.
No, not more wisdom, sir. Just me.
Just you. Oh, it's already there. Yeah. 7. And last one, Brandon. Brandon there?
Say, our name is book for him, say. His book.
All right.
How to edit like a pro. How to edit like a pro.
Like a pro. Let's put pro as pro.
And then you could put that as fact.
Subject of the book.
So it would be like facts. Facts. No, he's a real big editor and stuff. And book number will be 325. Say. Good.
325. All right. So I'm gonna put in asterisks, 5 asterisks to stop. And these are the books that we put in, right? So we have our data print. And I hope that you're paying attention and to do this. This is laying the foundation for what we're going to do, right? I'm changing the format, a format that might be easier to read. 1, I'm changing we doing essentially, basic systems. The only thing that the system that we have right now can't do is that it cannot really and truly it can't save the information, and that's the next step that we're going to do. Probably what we're going to learn next class. We might take this same book example could be the basis of an IA, of an SBA. Because we could now have a system that, like a basic library management system that will allow us to enter books, allow us to see all books, allow us to edit book information. Or if you want to carry it further, you could let it track who borrowed a book, right? But what I said prior would be enough for Unit 1. And if you want to change if you want to change the scope of your SBA for Unit 2, where we have to build from a more system development perspective, you could add that element of who wants to borrow a book and have that as your SBA, because you have to do the system documentation along with it. All right, so this works so far. So the only thing that we have left to do is to make sure that we don't have any repeating IDs. Okay? Clement, who's in the back of you?
So that's a computer science enthusiast.
Okay.
Yes.
Well,
She found
I'm glad.
she found computer science was so interesting that she had to, just listen in a little bit when she was on a break. So.
That's no problem by me. All are welcome.
Yes, sir.
All are welcome. All right. So we have we want to enter the ID of the book, but for every ID entered, we want to check, and if the ID that is entered has already been entered, then we want to ask over for the ID. So again, this is something that we're seeing as a potential loop. So we could say do something. Do ask for the ID of the book. While UNIQUE is equal to 1. Right? Well, let's put unique is equal to 0. Okay? So do ask for the ID for the book while unique is equal to 0. So we have a new variable called unique. And the first thing that we do is that we set unique to 0. So for the ID of the book, UNIQUE unique is equal to 0. Set unique to 0. This is that flag again that we're using. Okay? Then we get the ID of the book, get the ID of the book, and then we want to check through all of the previous IDs. All right? So we want to check from position 0 to the position that we're currently at. And if we find the ID inside of there, then we say, hey, we can't use this ID. All right? So we'll say for what? For, we need a counter. Okay. So for K equal to 0, semicolon, K is less than I, semicolon, K plus plus. For all of the ID positions that exist before, for all of the ID positions that exist before. Hey, I sent the stuff, right? I had sent the files. Yes, I did. Okay, so for all of the ID positions that exist before, what do we want to do? We want to say if what? If this current ID, so this is bk1.id, is equal to what? Is equal to if bk1.id is equal to, so if bk at position I dot id is equal to what? We're comparing the same IDs. So bk1 at position k dot id. Okay. So if this ID is equal to a previous ID, if this ID is equal to a previous ID, then what does that mean? It means that we have a problem, right? It means that we have a problem. I think that I have to change this down here, right? What does it mean? It means that we need to set the flag, unique is equal to 1. Well, let me do two things. So I have to put the brackets. And we print F this ID has already been used. Enter a new ID. Okay? I'm taking off this here. So this ID has already been used. So let's see what we have down here, right? So if the ID is equal to our previous ID, change the flag and warn the user. So we change the flag, we warn the user, and what happens then? Then we have to go back down, and only if unique is unequal to 0. Sorry, if while unique is equal to 1. Let me say it outrightly. What does this mean? It means if it is that unique is equal to 1, then we ask the user to enter the ID again and take it again and check it again. Otherwise, if unique was equal to 0, it would stop, right? So if the flag was changed, then loop and ask for the ID again. You all with me here? So we did a bit inside of here. What do we have here? Let's go with a bit of a trace table. All right. We have inside of here, we have enter the ID of the book. Let's say, for instance, this is the first ID that we have. What is the value of I going to be if this is the first ID that we have? And that's a question to you guys.
1.
What is the value of I going to be at this point if this is the first ID number that we enter in?
0.
So it would be 0, sir?
It would be 0. So let's enter an ID. So let's enter ID. We know that this means book at position I.id, right? BK1 at position I.id. What is the ID that we enter in now? Give me a number.
$833.
Anybody? 833. How does this K loop? if I'm looping for k is equal to 0, k is less than I, k plus plus, how many times will this loop?
Wait, so you can repeat the question? Oh.
How many times will this for loop?
Say it won't loop, right?
It won't loop. Because, yeah, it won't loop. Because if I is 0 and it goes until for k being less than 0, is 0 less than 0? Is 0 less than 0?
No,
I'm not
sir.
hearing. No, so it can't. The continue condition can't be satisfied. So this loop goes 0 times. Right? Is unique equal to 1? Unique in this instance, is it equal to 1 or is it equal to 0? It's still 0 from on top here because it never had a chance to become 1. So this statement is what? This statement is false. So we can't continue this loop either. So this number is good. I goes up to 1. Give me an ID to enter. A different ID.
420.
Yeah, 925120. All right. And again, the same thing happens. We go to the for loop, but this time, what is the value of I?
1.
1.
I is 1. So you're going from 0 to until you hit 1 and it doesn't go in for 1. So you have to check and see if these two are the same. Are they the same? Are they the same?
No.
No. So then we come down here. Unique is not equal to 1. Unique is still 0. So we go on to the second one. And now we enter A33 here. We enter A33 here. What happens at this point? We enter the ID of the book. That's what we just did. We go into this for loop. We say k is equal to 0. So we check in to see if book 1 at this current position is the same as book 1 at position k. K in this instance is currently 0. Is book 1 in this position the same as book 1 at position k?
Yes.
Yes, it is. So what happens to unique? Unique changes to 1. So we get this message printed out. And then this for loop will continue running. You feel like if when we change this unique value here, shouldn't we just stop searching for any more matches? Should that happen? Because if it is that we find a match, based upon the logic we put in, there should not be any more than one match. So if you find one match, then it doesn't make sense continuing looking for any more matches.
No, sir.
No, so then maybe we should put a break statement inside of here. Stop looking for more matches. So this break statement, once we hit this break statement here, it's going to affect this for loop. It's going to say, hey, don't worry, you want to reach the end of the for loop, stop it prematurely. Because we don't need to continue searching every location. We found what we were looking for. Right? That's what the break statement means. The break statement it stops the loop that is directly above it in terms of control. Are you all with me?
Say, I just have one question, right, sir? When the last ID we print out, wouldn't that be like stopping the code itself? So it won't loop through the rest of it? it wouldn't have anything else to loop after
No,
that.
it doesn't. It doesn't go up to the current ID.
So okay, so let me start back over, right? So we enter the first one in 0, and that's H. Then we enter the
Yes.
second one, that's 925,120, and I know now you could go
Right.
to so you go to the loop.
And now,
What is
yeah,
that?
you go to the loop and you compare 925,120 with 833.
Right, and then you realize that okay,
There's no matches there.
right,
So we go on to the next one. That will where we enter repeat. Right? Where we enter repeat 833. But this 833 already existed before in position 0, so that's where it will find it. And change unique to 1, which will allow us to say, hey, this ID was already used. Enter a new ID. We break from that ID, right? And we come out to the while loop. But because unique is 1, which satisfies this true loop, it'll put us back here. We'll reset unique to 0 and ask us for an ID for the book again.
Okay, understood, say.
I should have at least one person who sit down in the class and find everything was going good and then still had to make this thing complicated. Anybody there? Let me see show of hands. Hold on, I just want to see show of hands. I just curious. All right? Things are going nice and smooth, and then this guy come up with this, hey boy, and people actually putting up their hand. Please. What we will do, this is what it is about. Because we want the functionality of the program. So in order to check to see if any ID has already been repeated, we have to go through all the IDs that were entered up to this point. And that's all that this thing is doing, right? That's all that it's doing. We have a flag that says, okay, did we need this? Is this a unique ID? If unique stays at 0, then we don't have to loop over and enter a new ID. But if unique change to 1, then it means that this ID is not unique and we have to loop over and enter a new ID. Let's try it out now. Let's just see it in action. Let's see if it will work, right? So enter author's name. Gerald. Gerald, I spelled the name correctly there?
1 hour, say.
1 hour. Title of your book.
Yes, sir.
Subject of the book.
You could say affection.
Gas stop. Yes, sir. And then it's fiction. My word. What's the idea of this book?
007.
007. Probably just store as 7. All right. Who else? Who have night callers yet? Saint Bernard. All right. Saint Bernard, and then I'll do Clement.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Give me the name of the book.
Computer science.
All right. Subject of the book.
Non-fiction.
And the ID number, a unique one.
420.
422.
420.
420. All right. Author's name. 420, boy.
Clement.
Let's see, Clement.
The name of the book is Facts,
Facts.
and it's a non-fiction.
Non-fiction. Give me a unique ID.
007, say.
007, that's not a unique one, but we'll go with that. Let's see if it works. This ID has already been used. Enter a new ID. What ID we trying? Let's try 420. That ID has already been used. Enter a new ID. Can I give me a unique ID now?
Say 081.
081, right? The 0 wouldn't keep that because it's an integer variable you're storing it in. So it'll keep to this. All right? I mean, it'll show information, you wouldn't get the 0. Last person, Ola.
Author's name is the Nigerian. No, sir, the author's name is Nigerian, but okay, that's okay.
Okay. I thought that was the book's name. I didn't hear you say the author. I just said like the Nigerian. So what's the subject of the book?
Non-fiction.
Non-fiction. Right, and what's your ID?
234.
And now we put in an asterisk. So look at it here. Everything that we did. And what's great is that now we have protection against non-unique IDs. Isn't that awesome? Nobody's saying yeah, nobody's saying wow.
Wow, say wow. That's awesome.
Thank you. I'm glad that you're wowed by it. All right, but this is necessary. Okay, I mean, think about it like this: when you selecting a username for an email address, like a new email address, this is essentially what's going on, but just on a scale where it's comparing against probably hundreds of thousands of inputs at the same time. They have optimized comparisons and all kind of thing, but this is what is happening. They're looking at what has already been entered, and they are now saying, okay, well, yes, that name is good or that name is not good. All right, this is where it starts. This is basically it. You have to look through. You have to compare it against every potential record. All right, so this is the foundations for those kind of things. And the thing is, you can't build a system that does not have these kind of considerations inside of there. You want your system to be as complete as possible, because later on, when you have a system and you want to search through, and you're searching through, and you say, okay, well, let me search by IDs. Do you want multiple ID numbers to come up within your system? Nah, you don't, right? Because then you end up more confused than anything else. Because if more than one person have the same ID number, then what good is this system? You all follow me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. Let me just ask a couple questions now, though. You all understand the concept of the struct? The struct as a concept is pretty simple. Yes?
Yeah.
It's really and truly just a means of being able to keep records that are related to each other together, and access them through the same variable name. okay, rather than have multiple variables that are loose that you have to manipulate and keep together by writing the structure to have the relation which is exploiting the index on your own. And if it is that you had 4 single variables, then there's no way really and truly for somebody else reading until they really get into your code to see that those are related to each other. But this struct system allows you to essentially define that from the get-go to say, hey, once you see any of this information, it relates to the data type book. Once you see BK1, that's a variable of the data type book. So that its elements and how we treat it will have to do something with respect to being a book in the system. All right, so I think that's good there. Anybody have any questions before we really actually close off for today?
Sir, I was copying the code from what you wrote, and I guess now a warning here, and my code number is saying that there's an implicit declaration of the function string compare.
All right, once we finish, I'll let you share screen.
Okay.
So we could share it on camera. Actually, you could share your screen.
All right.
And we could try and see it on camera. Ooh, that is kind of
So you see it?
small.
Yes,
hold on.
Stephen.
Just there, just now. Let me close the right. So it's a little bigger now. Yeah. You have the n equal to 0 inside of the closing brackets for the string compare function.
Oh, it has to go outside.
Yeah.
Breaks now.
Right, because remember, it's what the function is returning that you yeah.
Okay, cool.
All right, no problem. Any other questions? Any other troubleshooting that you all need to do? Ask your questions to know people. I'm going to update the examples too on the structs in the chat.
Yes, sir. Excuse. I have one, but it's from the functions from class.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir.
Set?
Yes, sir. I'm gonna share my screen now.
Okay.
So you see your screen, right?
Yes. I am.
Yes, sir. When I compile it, just tell them that.
Passing one of argument on a string check means pointer to integer without the check. That's on line 29. Sorry, on line 15. String check is char letter, char string 50. No. You don't. When you say string 50, you say pass the 50th character of string into it. It's just string is the name of the whole array. So you want to pass the whole array, not a particular location within the array.
Yes, sir.
Right. Try that there and see.
Okay, so yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, sir.
No problem. Any other questions? I'm here. I'm pretty useful, guys. Once you guys are doing a little practice, I'm always here to ask a question. Sometimes you might message me and I'm gonna take a little while to answer, but you know, you'll get the answer. So anybody else has anything that? Yes, Mr. Saint Bernard.
Doesn't really have anything to do with the the work that we just went through, but it's
Yeah.
like coursework now. Because I finished number 3, but I didn't get a chance to upload it. So can I like send it there?
But I had changed the upload time to on the assignment. Isn't it still open?
No, I think it closed yesterday. I think it closed.
Was yesterday closed? Oh yeah, today is Wednesday. All right, I will open it. All right, so that you can make a change to it. So I guess anybody else who have a quick change to make, anybody else who have a quick change to make can make a change. All right, so it should be open now.
All right, thanks. Sir.
All right. All right. Any other questions? Nope. We all good. Great. So I'll stop recording.